Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. A pleasure to be back in Budapest. I was at the HR Fest a couple of years ago. I love the city. I love the dogs outside. As you know, you'll figure out I love dogs. I have a couple of slides on them. So let's get started. So the entire conversation I want to do with you this afternoon is basically talk about blurring the lines between customers and employees. And increasingly, you will realize that your people strategy cannot differentiate between these two groups. So we have come as a human race a long time, right? So from the typewriter interfaces to where we are, Neuralink is an Elon Musk company that is embedding sensors in your brain so that your body can operate through signals, and it's being tested for people with certain disabilities. So we have come a long way when we look at technology interfaces, how we are using them in a day-to-day life. So when we look at this evolution, there are three big points I want to place in front of you. All the studies show that there are three lines that are essentially blurring in our lives. First, the lines between the industries are blurring. So there isn't a single industry company anymore, and I'll walk you through a couple of examples. Two, the lines between humans and machines and technology is blurring. We are reaching a point where every human is probably going to be very augmented with supporting technologies. Third, the lines between customers and employees are blurring. When you bring these three together, you're at the speed of the customer. That's how I define agility. And the two speakers, Cecil before the panel, and then Stefano and Christopher, really have articulated a number of aspects of what I'm going to showcase. And I want to bring this to life to you through examples. Let's take the example of Amazon. So this is a Business Insider research that shows that if Amazon were a bank, almost 65% of Amazon users would actually like it. Now, the interesting part is the technology companies are now capturing almost 40% of a traditional banking market or financial services market in US. These are traditional banks being disrupted because I have an idea or a technology or a platform that I can play with. And this is really what I meant by there isn't a single industry company anymore. Here is another example. Quip, it's a toothbrush manufacturing company that's gone into dental insurance because they believe they understand the dental habits of their customers very well, and therefore they can cross the industry line and get into healthcare on a subscription service. Propeller, this is one of my favorites. It's essentially a device that captures or clips onto your asthma inhaler for patients and transmits data to you so that you know when you're using it, how often you're using it, what are the weather patterns you correlate with, is the dosage correct, etc. So when you look at all of the intermix between industries, your talent strategies have to be at these intersections too. If you're looking at a single industry talent, if you're looking at leadership that is single industry, more likely or not, you will fail. And I distinctly remember Cecil started the entire disruption with 75 years, going down to something like 15. An average business model today changes every 3.5 years of the Wall Street listed companies. Future of work elements is not just necessarily a lot of automation, it's also augmentation. Drones actually have a significant impact on a lot of our industries. They have a potential saving for a number of industries, including oil and gas. Windmills. I actually saw a startup in San Francisco that has this huge drone that goes and sprays chemicals onto the windmill, cleans it, scans it for repair, etc. And what was done in 6 months for a windmill was essentially done in less than 30 days. So automation is not the only displacement of labor, it's also new technologies and new equipment that's coming in when we look at it. And that's another interesting example where drones in Tanzania are saving lives by transporting them across in a poorly infrastructure-driven country. Three different examples, again, to show you how future of work is working. Fukoku is a Japanese company. This is a 2017 example where they replaced 30 people who are claim processors by an algorithmic robotic process automation bot. So the manager basically gets a fully done up claim and the manager approves it, but essentially everything else is automated, making it that much more efficient. On the top right, you'll see a Swedish company that's embedding microchips between the finger and the thumb, and there are more employees actually this year who opted for it. It's almost like, I don't know if you have an Apple Watch and an Apple machine. When I open it, I don't need to log in, right? It just logs me in, logging in with the Apple Watch. Apple Pay, I rarely pull out my wallet nowadays. I just put my watch and ping, it goes through and pays, right? So really, your embedded technology wearables has a significant impact. Bottom one is really the Walmart example. They've gone big time on virtual reality-based training. A store associate who would take about 45 days to be trained is trained between 2 to 3 days and is much more effective because it's a realistic learning. So future of work is a combination of factors. It's not an either-or. And future of work is not an either-or technology and a human discussion either. It's the augmentation. Companies that are able to augment humans well are the ones who are truly in the future of work. Everybody else is either-or, and they will fail. Now, as we transition, I want to show you a couple of examples. Kiva bots moving, stack storage units in Amazon warehouses. You have South Korea leading the pack with almost 800 bots per human. And this will increasingly change because the technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper in many of the countries. This is an interesting chart I found recently. It shows the job descriptions of what Amazon is putting out, looking for jobs and what skills are being asked for. Over the last 18 months, Amazon is pushing for a single-day delivery in US. So Prime users typically get 2 days. Now you're getting to single day. It's created other issues. There is a significant truck driver shortage. So there's a significant competition on how to get the talent. I'll show you a couple of solutions there. But you see that Amazon Web Services, which is typically your AI-based solution part, is the one that's been on top for the last 3 years. Warehousing has significantly gone up in the last year because of this push to single-day delivery. But it's fascinating to see how skills are evolving in the new economy that we are talking about. What this is doing is it's also making talent multi-industry. If your business is at the cost section or intersection of industries, technologies, and future of work elements, your talent cannot be singular. It has to be a plural, multi-dimensional talent that's sitting in your company. Your workforce planning has to look dramatically different. Your leadership strategy has to look dramatically different. This is an interesting data from a company called Executive Access, a recruiting firm. A large number of leaders in e-commerce, retail, and professional services are coming from outside the industry. And similarly, increasingly, if you're a single industry leader, you will be disrupted because you cannot think horizontally or laterally on how you disrupt other markets or other players in the company. Now, when we get to future of work and technology adoption, it's not just technology. We're not adopting it because somebody's inventing it. We're also adopting it because there are social circumstances. In the last 2 months, there have been a number of strikes by nurses in US. It's a scarce specialized talent. And on the other side, you see bots like MoxieBot. It's a bot that is an assistant nurse, and a lot of patients take selfies with it because they really like the bot walking around. But technology adoption goes hand in hand with socioeconomic cultural situations we have in our society. All of this is driven by an interface-based business economy. Uber is an interface. Now, here is a real-life example. My daughter, who is 13, she was at home that day, not at school, called me. I was in a plane flying just past Chicago. She said, I want pizza. Not that she can't order pizza. She knows how to do it. But for fun, she called me, and obviously all the planes are Wi-Fi enabled. I ordered a Domino's pizza sitting in the plane, 32,000 feet. By the time I went to Omaha, which is like 20 minutes on a flying time, Jamie, who was the Domino's driver, was delivering it at home. Right? Now, technology allows you to do silly things like this, but it's also a lot of fun because interfaces change the way you behave in your daily lives. I told you I like dogs, so here's the example. This is a dog waiting for the owner of the car to get off the car, but it's a Tesla that's auto-parked. There's no human inside it. So when you build smart interfaces, you change human behaviors, and obviously dogs too. On the right, you see a gentleman in Taiwan playing Pokemon, and out of fun, I put the red circle. You look at the dog looking at the human saying he must be crazy, isn't it? With all this number of screens in front of him. We looked at data from banks, and only digital banks. There's no brick and mortar. They don't exist. So consumers are willing to open an account with the only digital bank far more than a traditional bank because of the convenience. So now let's take that forward. We said there is no difference between how we think for customers and our employees. Here is the data from something that I do in my work. I speak to a lot of HR people around the world, CHROs. So this is the data from almost 123 people. And almost like 50% of them felt that HR can be simplified more than 40%. We are one of the most incredibly complex functions. And that's why if HR was a digital bank and I don't have to see you, I would be much happier. So if you are on the assumption that people want to come and see you, it's a false assumption to start with. It just shows that your services are not at the same level as what you offer your customers in your companies. So the two people, humans, are HR. They're looking at the baby, and they think they gave the baby an amazing gift. The baby is actually seeing the bottom side of the bears, and that's an impression that you have of interfaces. So HR is responsible for some of the poorest interfaces that humans interface with on our planet today. Example from a company called Horbiger. It's a Swiss-based company. They did something called an I want to section, where you can simply go and say, I want to set my goals. In 5 steps, it does, and you're out. It's one of the most visited web pages or sections of help across the company web pages they have. TikTok is a good example. I remember Christopher in the panel talking about memes being used in communication, the social interactions changing. It is because your personal life is full of these. TikTok is a big influencer. Now imagine if all of you are consuming information from platforms like TikTok, why would you read a one-page organized announcement, right? So the way we communicate is dramatically changing. Uber has redesigned its app to have food and mobility in one, but then also have an app to match gig talent to jobs in the mobility sector because they believe they understand human behavior and interfaces very, very well. Alexa is one of my favorite. Voice commerce is the fastest growing payment technology in the world. It's fascinating how it does. You can literally do anything provided you have a voice-based interface for your employees. Here is an example. So this is my desktop. Ignore the whiskey bottles on the light. It's not my doing. It's the lamp itself. But you have Alexa sitting on there, and let me show you a demo of how it can change the way we work. Alexa, what is our head count?
Our head count for the completed month is 8,932. This is 30 more than last month. This is 112 less than the same month previous year. Sales per employee has increased by 1% year to date and is $111,000 per employee.
Alexa, give me People Analytics headlines.
This is People Analytics headlines for the month of September 2019. Global headcount 8,932. Annualized turnover 12%. Jobs filled internally 52%. New employees 30. Learning system page views 4,000. Total sales training days 15. Days lost due to accidents 0. Percentage of salaries to sales 11.2%. Sales per headcount $111,000. New customers per headcount 240.
Now imagine you're asking your managers in the name of self-service to log in, to go through some crazy interface that you created thinking you spent $1 million on it, and I don't get the format that I want. So embedding interfaces into daily lives of managers and employees is how you get smart talent making smart decisions, doing smart innovative ideas. Now, I believe that the future of all people practices should have 3 design principles. You must base it on vision. It should be very visual. It must base it on voice. I gave you an example. It must be how you actually naturally interface among humans. It has to be touch-based, single touch. If you can deliver information to your employees in 1 to 3 clicks, visually, through voice, you are at the cutting edge of employee experiences. That is because that's exactly what you do with your customers. 65% of the searches on Google are about, do I need to do something? How can I do something? And Harvard research shows that 65% of the population cannot retain anything that they learned beyond 6 days, and mostly it's dramatically falls after that to 0. So why do I have to learn and remember something when can I access it instantaneously when I want to? How to do a price override on a system? You don't need to train me, because Alexa could be the best training coach that I have sitting on my desk. So we need to start thinking skills not necessarily jobs, and then the game changes. This is McDonald's using Alexa to fill an application. I can apply for an associate job in McDonald's through this. I can also use Snapchat to join McDonald's and apply for it. This is a company called Dawn Foods, who I did work with. They had this chatbot. They had a beautiful screen. They had the search functionality like Google, and they had Alexa that they were building. So within 0.39 seconds, an employee in this company could find literally anything he or she wanted to do the job different. A McKinsey research found that an average employee in a company spends 1.8 hours a day looking for information to do the job. Our future of work, as your panelists say, is really about the way you work that has to change. Therefore, we have to start thinking skills and jobs. Interfaces. So the chatbot, by the way, this was built on Microsoft Azure platform. It also comes on my Apple Watch. All our employees would get a notification to learn one thing a day. And you could also become a chatbot-centric interviewing company. This is Chipotle. You can actually fill an application with a text message to a certain number. And here is a quick sneak peek at it. Right? So it's very, very simple and effective. This is a website of the same company, Hobiger, that I told you. It's a very clean interface for people to really find information. Here is another example of food products company. Here is another example. Imagine if your analytics came onto the interfaces that your managers used at every single minute and every single day, it could dramatically change the game on how HR analytics are adopted. The reason why Uber is very successful is it uses data very smartly. So there are a number of home kitchens propping up because Uber understands where the need is, and they can actually come to you and say, why don't you start a home kitchen? So there are a number of food outlets that do not have restaurants, do not have places, you do not know they exist, but they deliver food to you. And the McKinsey research shows that the investment in analytics is far greater than the last mile. In the previous instances, we spent, let's say, $1 on customer service and nothing on analytics. We are now spending $4 on analytics as compared to $1 on customer service and analytics. Now, 28% of the data in HR is only used for decision making. Rest of the data is static: spouse name, address, social security, policy information, insurance, etc. So really, there isn't big data in HR when you look at it. So how do you make the data smart and intelligent? Is by applying customer thinking and bringing to life employee experiences. How people use interfaces, where is your talent sitting, how is your industry evolving, changes the way we look at this entire thinking about agility. So agility is being at the speed of the customer. It is about being at the intersection of industries, technologies, and people. It's about brilliant interfaces that change your life. It's about understanding data very differently so that you can actually treat your employees like customers. Thank you very much.